Creating emotional space to connect with God. Why is that important to create emotional space? How do we do it? That's what we're going to go after in July in Women Becoming in Jesus. I'm McCove Johnson, and I am the host, a facilitator in this group. And the reason that I do the work that I do is because I don't want other committed Christian women to struggle like I did. Struggling to like yourself, struggling to be the Christian you think you're supposed to be, struggling to have the victory and the freedom that you know is yours in Christ. So that's why I do the coaching and sharing here that I do. And what I share is coming from my own journey, my own healing. Hi, Alyssa. So yeah, that's just a little about me and why I'm here, why I do what I do. And seeing that like I'm like a midwife for your healing and birthing you into your purpose. So I'm out here in the yard. My son's questioning that I'm in the shade instead of the sun, but I thought it would work better for the video. So for the intro, we're going to talk about, first of all, what is creating emotional space? What do I mean by that? That's mainly what we're going to focus on today. And then for the rest of the month of July, we're going to look at our current emotions, today's emotions. We're going to look at yesterday's emotions, those things that are still impacting us from the past. We're going to looking at tomorrow's emotions, those fears and worries that we project, or even our hopes and expectations that we project into the future. And then others' emotions. All of those things impact us and can interfere with us connecting with God if we don't give them the space they need. So we're going to talk about how we do that and what not to. And I welcome any questions. So first of all, to create space, we need to name our emotions. And that can require building a vocabulary. If you grew up in a family that didn't really have an emotional vocabulary, didn't name emotions, you just ignored them, you might have a very limited vocabulary of like mad, sad, happy, mad, sad, glad, like they rhyme. That might be all the farther you got. But there's more and more research coming out that shows that we need somewhere around like 30 different emotions, that we should be fluent in those like 30 different emotions for emotional health and for relationship. So it might require building some vocabulary besides just being mad or just being sad. And it also requires feeling your emotions. I think a lot of times in the church or in faith, maybe grew up with the idea that emotions weren't part of faith. That once you're saved, once you're like emotions just didn't have a place anymore. You're just supposed to have faith, and like emotions are part of your flesh, and you're just supposed to ignore them. But God is showing me more and more that emotions are just like a sense. Like you wouldn't ignore your sense of smell if it's telling you that something is burning, because it's of your flesh and not of your spirit. So your emotions that are telling you that you're hurt or that you're angry are also giving you information so that you can adjust your behavior, just like smelling something on fire is telling you, hey, you need to do something here. So they're not to be ignored. They're not to run your life, but they're not to be ignored because, you smell something on fire. Maybe it's something really small and you take care of it really quickly. Maybe the house is on fire and you need to get key things and get out. So, Leah grew up with emotional vocabulary of like 3 words. Me too. So we need to be able to name them, and we need to be able to feel them. And God took me on a really cool journey probably about a month ago, where it was dealing with some really hard stuff. And I'm like, God, what do I do with this? Because I normally like process and reason through and do all these things. And he's like, just stay with your emotions, just stay in them. And I was just like, what? But by staying in the emotion of, maybe I was frustrated or maybe I was confused, but as I sat with it and stayed in it, then he was able to show me other things I was feeling, and that some situations where I actually felt betrayed. And so then I was able to be like, oh, I didn't realize I was feeling that. So now I can forgive this person because they weren't trying to betray me. Um, it's just how I actually subconsciously perceived that I had been betrayed. And so I was able to forgive and shift things. And because I stayed in the emotion long enough to figure out what I was feeling and why. Um, and so to do the naming and to do the feeling is going to require growing in awareness. Um, and our feelings, our emotions are called feelings because we feel them. Like our body physically saw the little tumble behind me, but she's okay. Um, we feel them in our body. We talk about butterflies in our stomach, knots in our stomach. Excuse me. Um, ears burning, cheeks burning. Kids who like practice building awareness have been listening to the Emotionally Healthy Child, and she talks about a little one who says he feels his anger in his fists, like he feels his hands like make fists when he's angry. And so like paying attention to how we feel helps us connect with those emotions. And how is our body feeling? Where are we feeling it in our body? What kind of things are we thinking um, that's triggering these responses? um, so that's kind of the practical. I guess I kind of didn't, we'll end with like, why does it matter? Why does it matter if we have this emotional awareness, if we have this emotional vocabulary? Because I kind of see it like our house or our heart being like a house, and there's like a room for our emotions. And if that room is chaotic and the emotions are just flying all over the place and we don't know what to do with them, we don't know what they are, because we don't have names for them. We don't have strategies for, for calming, for expressing ourselves, whatever these, like, then this room is just chaos. And this, we're going to have a really hard time discerning the still small voice of the spirit in that room. But the spirit is in every room in our house. So by being able to name the feelings, he gave me a picture a week or two ago of, so like everything storming around this room kind of like being balloons, but rather than just like floating at the top, they're storming all around the room. But you can grab one and see what it is and be like, oh, this balloon is worry, or this emotion is fear or betrayal or whatever. And now that I see what it is, now I can be like, okay, God, what do I do with this? And you can you can restore some order. Like, yes, there are emotions. I'm feeling things. I'm feeling lots of things in this chaotic world and season that we're in. But I don't have to just live in this storm. I can bring order to it because I have the Spirit of the Lord in me to bring order, to bring self-control, to bring peace. Um, so being able to restore that order and being able to acknowledge our emotions, because I think we've kind of been taught like stuff your emotions so that they don't run your life, because you can't be an emotional person and like live your lives controlled by emotions. But if you're stuffing your emotions, that's exactly what you are doing. You are living controlled by your emotions, because they will show up kind of like a toddler that doesn't want to be ignored. They will keep at it until they get the attention that they need, because they were designed again to give you information to be helpful to you. So naming them, giving them the response that they need, is how we like put that space back in order, create the space for God to connect and communicate with us. Because if the emotions are storming all over and we ask God a question, it typically just creates more frustration and confusion, because it's like, oh, well, is that my thought? Is that my emotion? Is it just like, it just adds to it if you're not coming from a place of calm and like, this is where I'm at. This is what I need.
Yes, Deanne.
See if I had anything else on my notes. Yeah, I guess just that for the rest of July, like, we'll be taking we'll stay in this creating emotional space and looking at what are some practical things to do with my current emotions. What are things to do with emotions connected to past things, emotions connected with the future, and then others people's emotions. How do we deal with these things? And again, we're doing it so that we can create that space for God to communicate with us and to know what he's saying, how he wants us to respond. So I'm going to check and see if there was any questions posted that I missed. Hi. Or if you have a question, you can leave it. Let's see.
My dress is a little wet too. In my rain jacket.
All right. I don't see any. Leave that there, please. It's warmed up, so you don't need your rain jacket anymore. Checking for questions. It's being slow. Okay, I don't see any. So you can always send me questions. Let me know, is this something that's easy for you? Is it something that you struggle with? Is it something that, whatever. It's not quite that warm yet. Love you. Yeah, so thanks for watching, and if you've got friends that you think would be blessed by this, invite them to join us. It's not quite July yet, but I just felt like this was a big topic, and I wanted to get started on it and give you a chance to invite friends to join us. And yeah, appreciate you all, and we will see you later.